Okay, good morning everyone. Chanukah. Over the years, we've said over many times from the Chidah what the commonality is between Chodesh, Milah, and Shabbos. Why the Yevanim wanted to be Mavatel, these three mitzvahs. And all the years we've said over from the Chidah that these three mitzvahs demonstrate that we are Banim Lamakayim. But today I want to share with you another approach offered by the Chidah and the Reish David. He quotes Mahari al-Ghazi, what the kavanah of the Yevanim were, and I think this will give us insight into another practice of Chanukah. In general, there's a fundamental dispute between Klal Yisrael and the nations of the world, primarily Yavan. What is superior, the acts of heaven or the acts of man? Meaning, is the world created the way God wanted, and therefore whatever is lacking, well, obviously God wants it to be lacking, and that's the way He left it, so be it. That's called Maseh Shamayim Adif. The acts of heaven are greater. Meaning, that's how God created it, and that's how we need to leave it. Or do we say Maseh B'nei Adam Adif? The acts of man are better. Meaning, the way man's job is to perfect, to advance, to take to the next level, and the world is lacking. And actually the activities and the determination of man is considered more ideal even than the acts of heaven. And the Chidah explains as follows. The nations of the world say that, is idolatry permitted? They say obviously it's permitted, because if it wasn't, God should have destroyed them. And if He allowed it to exist, that means it's okay. And sort of that's an attitude in general, where that's an attitude in general. In other words, do we say, well, God obviously wants that person to be poor, because if He didn't want him to be poor, He wouldn't make him poor, and if God made him poor, then he should remain that way. And the Jewish people say, no, man's job is to perfect, to, so to speak, assist God in perfecting the world. God made them poor so that we could bring it to the next level and we could support them. So in other words, this is a fundamental machlokes. The nations of the world say, serve idols. Obviously they're good. God lets them be. It's okay. You don't have to give your money to the poor. God made the person poor. That's the way He wants it. And that's an attitude in general. You could say, well, let that person conduct themselves the way they would like to. That's how God made them. No, we don't say that. We say man's job is to perfect, to work on themselves, to advance society. God wants us to. That's how He created the world. You know what the three demonstrations of that are? Number one, Shabbos. Shabbos is a sign that God created heaven and earth. What does God need signs for? God could have made many signs in the heavens and the earth. In other words, who has God selected as the witnesses that He's the creator of the world? So you say, what do you mean? There are great witnesses. There's sun. The sun is so powerful. The wisdom, the planning, the sheer energy shows that God created the world. God said, no, I don't want that witness. I want the Jewish people to be my witnesses. I want them to work for 6 days and rest on the seventh day to testify that I created the world. I prefer the acts of man more than what I created. The acts of men are greater. Maseh Adam Adif. Furthermore, Rosh Chodesh. When is Rosh Chodesh? When the heavens say the new moon is? No. When the earthly court says the new moon is. Because the acts of men are more important. Should man remain the way God created him with an arla, a foreskin? God says, no, you got to perfect it. The acts of man are greater. But the Yevanim wanted to uproot this because these three mitzvahs that demonstrate that man has a job and a role and a mission in this world to perfect creation, that is antithetical to their worldview, that let the world remain how God created it. You know, God created men with desires and passions, so just use them, give in to them. Or furthermore, this would explain perhaps why the mitzvah of tzedakah is so fundamental to Chanukah. The Magen Avram brings that the minhag of young men is to go around collecting. There's a strong custom to give tzedakah on Chanukah. In fact, there's a sefer from a kadmoin, and from the times of the Marshal, that the numerical value of Chanukah in Atbash is the same as Soid Tzedakah, the secret of charity. Why is charity fundamental to Chanukah? The answer is because the miracle of Chanukah demonstrated Maseh Adam Adif. The tikkun of man is more important, is greater, is more ideal. Man has to take himself and do a milah. God prefers man's testimony that he's the creator over even the testimony of the heaven and earth. Rosh Chodesh demonstrates Maseh Adam Adif, and therefore we go out of our way, I would suggest, to give tzedakah. In contradistinction to Tornus Rufus, who says that you're not allowed to give tzedakah. God decreed that this person should be poor. You can't contravene the will of God. But we say no. God created the world that Maseh Adam Adif. Hashamayim Shamayim Lashem V'ha'aretz Nasan Livnei Adam. God gave us this world to do something about it. You know, people have questions on God. Why do bad things happen to good people? But it's really the opposite, because it's our world. And if somebody sees somebody else suffering, that's God's question to us. And how we respond is our answer. Because Maseh Adam Adif. You see, sometimes people ask questions because they think that, oh, this is God's world. Yeah, it is God's world. He created it. But guess what He did? He gave it to us. So the challenges we see in this world are His questions to us. And the way we respond is our answer to Him. Maseh Adam Adif. The acts of man are greater. Okay, Rabbi Say, please join us tonight at 8:30 for a amazing shir about Chanukah and Mechiras Yosef. Have a great day, everyone. Great to see you.